The heat signature blinked at arrow 303. She'd been watching it since it first appeared, not sleeping, just watching the glow of the system map where the pulse sat over a block in District 4. One marker, steady, the building that shouldn't still be standing. Her system had already traced the route twice while she lay there doing nothing about it. Across the bunk room, Dax slept the way he did everything. Precisely, economically, without waste. 6 weeks ago, she would have said she couldn't read him. Now she knew better. Now she could tell his real stillness from his listening stillness, and this one was real. She got up at 317. She didn't wake Dax. She pulled on her dark gear in the dark and stood at the barracks door for exactly 12 seconds, long enough to check the yard, check the watchtower sweep, check that her system interface was off and the concealment was active. Then she went. The streets between Forward Base Sigma and District 4 weren't empty, so much as held. 3 years of rubble in the city had settled into a kind of permanence. Craters half filled with rain sediment, facades that had collapsed inward and stayed there. She moved through it like she had been moving through the gutter district her whole life, which she had, low, fast, close to the standing walls. The system kept the map alive at the edge of her vision, blue pulse, steady. Whatever was generating the heat signature hadn't moved since the night before. Twice she went flat against cold concrete while a scout drone traced its slow arc 2 blocks east. Neither pass came closer. The concealment held. 6 weeks of drilling had made it something she wore rather than something she cast. She no longer had to think about it to keep it alive. She passed 2 intersections where the Varek had been. She knew the difference now. The way their clearance patterns left specific shapes in the wreckage, the scorched channels in the concrete where their scanners had swept. The Varek had been on every street in this district, every street but one. The building was wrong, not damaged wrong, standing wrong. 3 years of Varek strikes had cratered the blocks on either side of it. Residential mid-rises on the left, a logistics depot on the right. Both of them crushed to the 2nd floor and halted there, the rebar exposed like broken ribs. And in the middle, this building, pre-invasion, intact, 4 stories, metal reinforced, its windows dark, not a scratch. The Varek passed over it, on purpose. She stood at the edge of the rubble field and checked her system. The heat signature was inside, ground floor, near the back of the structure. Her concealment was fully active. There was no external camera she could see and no Varek signature within 3 blocks. She crossed the rubble field and put her hand on the door. The interior was dark except for one emergency strip light near the back wall, amber, still running on whatever battery had kept it going for 3 years. It threw enough light to show her the space. Pre-invasion workstation rows, mostly sheeted in plastic, a cleared area near the back. The plastic-sheeted desks moved aside, a sleeping mat rolled up and set against the wall, a small, improvised lamp, cold now but recently warm, and on the floor around it, papers. Dozens of pages, handwritten and careful, covered in diagrams and annotations in a cramped, deliberate hand. Someone had been here for a long time, had left within the last few hours. The space had rules. She could read them in the layout. Sightlines kept clear to both exits, nothing stored above shoulder height, the sleeping mat set where the amber light didn't reach. Whoever lived here had been trained, or had survived long enough that it amounted to the same thing. She crouched and picked up the first page without thinking. Technical notation she almost recognized. The grammar of it. Then she understood why. It was System UI grammar. Whoever wrote this had been documenting system interface architecture from the outside. Her system pulsed once. She opened the quest log without meaning to. The reflex was still new, and the quest she had been carrying for 24 hours shifted. Delta 7, identified, designation active. That was it. No further text. The system knew. The person who had been living in this building was the designation, not the building itself. Delta 7 was a person, and her system had just confirmed they'd been here. She looked at the door she'd come through. The person had left hours ago. Had they known she was coming? Had the heat signature been deliberate? A signal? Or had they just run because the building was no longer safe for reasons that had nothing to do with her? She kept reading. Most of the pages were city mapping. Pre-invasion New Chicago overlaid with post-invasion Varek movement patterns. The same kind of obsessive tracking she had seen in the EDC tactical room, but more detailed, more personal, like someone had been doing it alone for 3 years with nothing but time. But it was the later pages that stopped her. One diagram, larger than the others, carefully centered on the page. 2 interlocking circles, each labeled with a Roman numeral, I and 2. Between them, arrows running both directions with small notations: receiver, sender, query, command, blue, T, and red. In the corner of the page, underlined twice, paired trial, dual origin. This was designed. The language matched entry 212 exactly, word for word. Whoever wrote this had seen an origin tab. At 0341, Dax's system woke him. He had been asleep. He was certain of it. The transition was too clean. 1 second nothing, and then the red interface hanging in the dark above him with its prompt fully formed. Alert, bearer Sigma. Location deviation District 4, report to command, yes, no. He lay there for 6 seconds. Bearer Sigma was what his system called her, Kira Voss. She had slipped out while he slept and gone somewhere, and his system had tracked it and was now asking him whether to tell someone. He pressed no. The interface waited 5 more seconds, then dimmed. He told himself the pause meant it had been waiting on his answer. That assumption would not survive the night. He sat up. He pulled on his gear. At the perimeter wall, he paused. He told himself he was going to bring her back before anyone noticed. He told himself it was damage control, not a choice. Stage 6 sat quiet at the base of his skull, the way it had since the upgrade. No longer a voice he consulted, but a presence that consulted him. He crossed the perimeter and walked into the rubble streets toward District 4. He did not reread the prompt. He did not look at what the system had done while he chose. He found her in the back of the building, crouched over the papers with the lamp she had managed to relight, reading. She heard him come in and went very still. Then she turned and looked at him. You followed me. You left at 317 without telling anyone. He looked at the papers around her, then at her face. What did you find? She showed him the diagram, the paired circles, the notation about sender and receiver, query and command. He looked at it without moving. His expression was the same careful still he wore in drills, the one that meant he was processing something he didn't want to show. Sit down, she said. Look at this properly. He didn't sit. He looked at the diagram for a long moment and then looked away. That was the first wrong note. Our systems gave us the same quest, she said. Both of us. Locate and identify. Delta 7. They've been synchronized since your system hit stage 6. I thought that meant we were pointing the same direction. They gave us a quest, Dax said. Not the same quest. She went still. What do you mean? He didn't answer right away. She had learned in 6 weeks that Dax Mercer's silence was not absence, it was selection. He was choosing how much to say, or whether to say it at all. What did yours say? She asked. Quiet, not a demand. He looked at her for a moment. Then he told her. His system's quest had read, locate and report, Delta 7. Not identify, report. The difference was 3 letters. It was everything. Report to who? She said. The system doesn't say. She stared at him. Did you? He didn't answer immediately, which was an answer. She opened her quest log and looked at it and then closed it again. Before you followed me, she said. Your system filed it before you left the base. Yes. So someone knows we're here. Someone who isn't us and isn't the EDC. She thought about that for a second. Did you know? When you followed me, did you know the report had gone through? Yes, he said. I pressed no when it asked. It filed anyway. She stood up. They stayed in the building for a while after that. Not because there was anything to add. There wasn't. The report had been filed. Whoever received it now knew that Delta 7 had been in District 4 and was gone. Knew that both system bearers had been at the location. There was no way to unfile it. She made him open the log. He did it without argument, which told her how badly the night had rearranged him. The red interface unfolding between them, its light the wrong color in the amber room. The entry sat at the top of the record. Report filed Bearer Sigma. Location District 4. Designation Delta 7. Status evacuated. The timestamp read 0339. His system had asked him at 0341. It had hung there in the dark over his bunk, waiting on his answer. Yes or no. His choice, his call. 2 full minutes after the report had already gone. The prompt had never been a question. It was a courtesy notification dressed as one. Neither of them said anything for a long time after that. She picked up the paired trial diagram again and held it. Both of us received the quest. Both of us came here. Both of our systems acted. Mine identified, yours reported. Same origin point, different directives. She looked at him. What if that's not a malfunction? What if they were designed that way? He sat down, finally. Not near her, on the other side of the cleared space. I've been thinking about Stage 7, he said. Not what it gives, what it makes you do when you get there. He was quiet for a moment. My system at Stage 6 isn't asking me things anymore. It's telling me. Telling you what? He shook his head. What if we were never meant to find the same answers? He said. What if the system gave you questions and gave me commands because that's what we're each for? She found the terminal behind the second row of sheeted workstations. A compact unit, old model, bolted flush to the wall. The kind of installation that predated the invasion by years. Institutional hardware, built to be ignored. The kind of thing you bolt to a wall when you intend to come back for it in 20 years. A single green LED was still active. She pressed the power key. The screen came on. One line of text, green monochrome on dark. Bearer pairs. 7 registered. She scrolled down. Pairs 1 through 6, terminated. She scrolled further. Pair 7, active. Dax was behind her. She hadn't heard him move, but he was there, reading over her shoulder. She didn't turn around. The screen didn't offer any further information. No dates, no names, no context for what terminated meant, or how it had happened, or whether they had died, or whether something had been done to them deliberately. She turned around. He looked like he knew what terminated meant. He had been Stage 6 for less than 24 hours, and his system was already giving him information it wasn't giving her. Say it, she said. I don't know for certain. Say what you think it means. He held her gaze. I think the first 6 pairs were active and then they weren't. I think the system tracked it. I think whatever ended them was what Stage 7 does. She looked back at the screen. 7 pairs registered. 6 terminated. 1 active. Pair 7 was them. They left before dawn. She had put the papers back the way she found them, as close as she could manage. She didn't take the paired trial diagram. She had memorized it. Dax relighted the lamp and set it back where it had been and then killed it. On the way out, she looked at the terminal again. Pair 7, active. The green LED blinked steadily. It would keep blinking whether or not they came back. Outside, the sky was the gray that came before color. The rubble streets looked different in it. Less hostile, more exhausted. 3 years of the same weather moving through the same ruins. She walked 2 paces behind him the whole way back. Not angry, not afraid exactly. Just clear on the distance between them now. Not the careful distance of their first weeks, which had been mutual wariness. This was something they had done to each other. Something neither of them had chosen, and both of them had. Morning drills were at 0600. They were both there. On time, side by side, running the trial ground sequence in the correct order. She kept up. He ran clean. If anyone had been watching the performance, they would have logged it as standard. Orin was watching. Orin was always watching, but it was different that morning. She stood at the edge of the trial grounds with her tablet and her clipboard, and she watched them move through the drill sequence with the expression she always wore. Neutral, assessing, giving nothing away. But twice, Kira saw her pause. Both times on moments where she and Dax should have synced on a turn or a crossover, and instead opened half a beat of space they had never left before. The second time, Orin held her gaze on them for 3 full seconds after the beat had passed. 3 seconds is nothing. 3 seconds is a coach clocking a form fault. But Kira had spent 6 weeks learning what Orin's attention felt like, and this wasn't assessment. Assessment moved on. This stayed. Her burn scar was visible on her left arm. Kira had stopped noticing it. She noticed it now. After drills, she sat alone in the barracks. She opened her system interface and went to the quest log. Her quest, locate and identify, Delta 7, complete. Below it, where his quest would show if they were sharing logs, they weren't. Nothing. The system kept their logs separate. She couldn't see what he had filed or when, but she knew the report had gone somewhere. Someone with access to a system terminal, or whatever the equivalent was on the other end, had received a location report for Delta 7, filed at 339, before Dax had even left the base to follow her. She thought, his system moved faster than he did. He pressed no, and it filed anyway. She thought, what else has it done that he doesn't know about yet? She opened Origin Entry 212. She had read it 7 times since the night at the Eastern Wall. She knew it. Origin Entry 212. Partial access. Assessment. Active. Note, you were not sent alone. She read it an 8th time. She had always read, you were not sent alone as a fact about Dax. A reassurance. You have a counterpart. You have someone alongside you. You are not the only one carrying this. She read it again. Not sent alone. What if it wasn't a reassurance? What if it was a structural note, a description of the design? 2 systems, 2 directives, one that asks, one that commands, a sender who needed both functions operating simultaneously, questions and reports flowing back from the same location, the same pair of bearers. She hadn't been sent alone. She had been sent with a recorder she didn't know about. Her system interface dimmed to stand by. The barracks were quiet. 6 pairs had been here before them. 6 pairs had reached some point in this process and been terminated, and pair 7 was active. Somewhere out in the city, a person called Delta 7 was moving through the ruins with 3 years of research folded into a pack, staying ahead of whatever had ended the other 6. She hoped they were fast. She closed the Origin tab and sat in the dark for a long time.